Hey guys, I'm here with my week 1 league match against Kyle, aka Eden's Blessing. I don't really know what he's called anymore. And the Harlem Gloomtrotters. This is an interesting match, so it's going to be interesting to talk about it. You may notice my team is hella weird. It's because my draft was hella weird. And you may notice an electrode on there. I actually brought the electrode because Kyle had drafted a Starmie, which was going to be very threatening to my team, especially since bar Amoongus, which still even Amoongus wouldn't really deal with the Starmie. I don't have a whole lot to deal with the Starmie. But he did not bring the Starmie. I expected him to bring everything he brought here except for the Archeops, which was different, although upon further reflection it kind of makes sense, because he didn't really have a Stealth Rocker besides that, unless he wants to use Scarf, or not, like Stealth Rock Crocodile or something. Oh, I don't really know. But that's why I brought my Electrode. He didn't really have much of an answer other than that. It's specs with Modest Nature, which actually turned out to be pretty alright. You'll see that later. Other than that, I kind of brought Gyarados just out of necessity because I didn't really have much of another like setup Pokemon. Amoongus is nice. If I had played with it better, it could have been definitely really effective. And then I brought Scarf Ditto, which was in case he started sweeping with something like Slurpuff, although I'm not sure if I would have outsped it. Probably not because of Unburden. Something like Swords Dance Scizor or that Volcarona I could have used to stop it. That's a Scarf Jirachi as well. Scarf mainly because it can deal with revenge killing things that Ditto can't. And then a Gliscor, partly because I need rocks, and it's just a good wall. My draft was mainly meant to be kind of stall-ish, but the team that I brought ended up being, I would say balanced, but it's not really balanced, it's kind of a bad team. That's alright. Anyway, his team is definitely a lot more threatening, puts a lot of pressure, and it seems pretty hyper-offensive, a little bulky offensive too, especially with things like Scizor. Definitely could be a little bulkier, and Volcarona is definitely something I want to keep my eye out for, especially since Megas are supposed to be Mega Evolved turn 1, which I had forgotten, actually, which means that Volcarona is a big threat to my team. So anyway, I'm going to get started with the match here. I'm going to put it on slow. So I decided to lead off with my Gliscor because I figured my Gliscor actually has a pretty good lead with what I had expected to be either Archeops or maybe Crocodile. He actually leads off with his Thundurus, which is a pretty bad lead matchup for me. Of course I'm going to switch because I'm fearing the Hidden Power Ice, and I want to make the safer play because it's pretty early in the match. So I'm going to go ahead and switch out into Amoongus, and I believe he actually goes for a pretty good play. Yeah, he goes for a good play, and he goes for the Taunt. It turns out, actually, that a lot of his Pokemon in this team have Taunt, which I suppose he had prepared pretty well for, because my team draft is pretty clearly stally. So now my Amoongus is more or less shut down, especially since it doesn't have Sludge Bomb. It actually has Clear Smog. I definitely should have brought Sludge Bomb, actually, because the only thing that I was really fearing was the Volcarona, and Clear Smog would not have solved that. So probably should have gone with Sludge Bomb. He's going to go for the Volt Switch. I'm going to stay in, actually, in Clear Smog, just to kind of judge how much damage it'll do. He ends up switching out and going into his Scizor, which is a really good play on his part. So now I'm basically forced to switch. So basically in the first few turns here, I'm already in a really bad position. I'm forced to play defense, and he's putting a lot of pressure on me. So I'm forced to switch right now. I'm going to go back into my Scizor as he goes for the knockoff, which is really shitty. And that I wouldn't say it shuts down my Scizor, or my Gliscor, excuse me, but it definitely limits my options. I'm basically now only able to switch in against things like Crocodile and Scizor for a few turns. I do have Roost, thankfully, so he ends up switching right here and going into his Crocodile. As I'm just going to get up my Stealth Rocks. He goes into his Crocodile, and I'm not 100% sure what he's trying to go for, but I'm going to go back into my Amoonguss as he goes for the Taunt again, showing that, again, he prepared for my team in bringing Taunt, which is really good on his part. And I assume he was, you know, predicting me to bring in my Amoonguss, but anyway, he's going to switch out again and go back into a Scizor, I suppose predicting the Giga Drain, and I'm actually going to predict that and go back into my Gliscor. And this is going to be nice. It's going to let me have a few options as to how I can counter this. And I'm actually going to go for the Taunt here, which is a pretty bad play on my part. I was actually predicting him to switch into something like his Thundurus or his Archeops. I was not expecting him to U-turn. I probably should have. But anyway, he's going to go for the U-turn. I think it would have been better if I had gone for something like a Roost, so that I could be better prepared for Dino Burb. So he goes into his Archeops here. I'm expecting Stealth Rock, so... Whoops. Okay, sorry about that. So I'm back here, and I go for the Taunt, like I said. He U-turns into his Archeops, and I'm expecting his Archeops to go for the Stealth Rock. So right here, I'm going to switch, and I'm actually going to go into my Jirachi, so that I can have a pretty good option no matter what he wants to go for. And he ends up going for the Defog, which does kind of suck. It means that if I want to pressure that... here, let me pause this. It means that if I want to pressure his Volcarona, I'm going to have to go for Stealth Rocks again, which is definitely going to be a difficult situation for my Gliscor to be in. So I'm going to go for the Fire Punch because I'm assuming he's going to switch into his Crocodile, and I'm pretty much banking on the burn right here. And thankfully I do get the burn, which more or less kind of shuts down his Crocodile. So now I'm going to switch, and I'm going to go into my Gyarados because I figure I'm in a really bad situation. I was basically in a bad situation in this game from Team Preview, and if I wanted to have an opportunity of sweeping, setting up against this Crocodile would have been my best chance. So he actually predicts that, which was a really good play on his part. And he goes into his Thundurus. So now I'm not 100% sure what to do. So I go into my Ditto because I'm assuming he's going to predict me to switch and go for something like a Volt Switch. So if I go into my Ditto, I can go ahead and copy his Volt Switch, and then I'm in a good position. And I do predict correctly as he goes for the Volt Switch, and I actually make a crucially really bad play. Because I had assumed, for some reason, that he was going to switch, even though I saw in his moveset that he had Hidden Power, which was pretty clearly Ice, although in my Ditto it was Dark, which I definitely should change. So I had assumed that he was going to switch into something like his Volcarona or his Scizor or his Slurpuff even. So I go for a Taunt, and this was a really, really bad play on my part. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking. So I go for the Taunt here, and he just goes for the HP Ice, and I'm down to 15% now, which is really, really shit. I definitely could have played that better. Had I played it better and prepared better for this, I definitely could have been in a more positive position right now. So that's pretty shit. So I go into my Jirachi, and of course because he's Life Orb, he's going to go for the Volt Switch now. So he goes back into his Archeops. I could have stayed in with my Ditto, although I was locked in to Taunt, so still probably not a great idea. So he goes into his Archeops here, and I'm actually Scarfed, so I'm just going to stay in and U-turn. And I'm going to go into my Electrode, actually, because I'm pretty sure he's either going to go for something like a U-turn or Stealth Rock. He's probably not going to go straight up for an Earthquake. So I go into Kevin, my Electrode, and this thing is a hell of a lot better than I would have thought it would be. He goes for the U-turn, which of course, because it's an Electrode, is going to do around half. But check out how much this Volt Switch does. Not bad. That's modest specs, which I suppose could be a lot better. But, you know, for an Electrode, definitely not bad. So I'm gonna go into my Amoonguss right now, because it's pretty much the best thing I can go into, besides my Gliscor. I think Gliscor actually would have probably been a better move, maybe, so that I could pressure it up with Stealth Rocks again. Anyway, so I go into my Amoonguss right now. He predicts that, and or actually, no, he doesn't predict anything. He just goes for a U-turn. I'm getting my turns mixed up here. So he goes for a U-turn and he goes into his Thunderous. So oh wait, did he predict that? Whatever. So I'm gonna go back into my Ditto basically as fodder, because I figure that he's probably not gonna go for something like a Volt Switch or a Thunderbolt. Because I have my Ditto, he actually makes a good play and goes for a Psychic, which would have been the safest play against anything that I would have gone into. I guess bar my Jirachi, but I basically went into my Ditto as death fodder, figuring that he either dies and I get Switch Initiative, or he is an idiot and goes for something like a Volt Switch. So I'm gonna go back into my Electrode and check this shit out. Modest Electrode, still faster, and kills with an HP Ice. So I can't be mad at that, I guess. He goes into his Slurpuff here, and I go into my Jirachi because I'm actually Jolly Scarf, so I know that after an Unburden boost, I'm gonna be faster than him. So he sets up a sub on my Switch, and he goes for a sub again, and I just break that down with an Iron Head. He ends up going for a Calm Mind here, which is interesting. I would have assumed that he was Belly Drum, but it doesn't really matter because I just go for an Iron Head and he's dead now. But this is where things get a little intense, because he brings in his Volcarona, no Stealth Rocks, so this thing is basically here to fuck me up. And I go into my Electrode because it has Taunt, and I figure I would still be faster because I'm an Electrode after one Quiver Dance. So he goes for a Quiver Dance on my Switch, and unfortunately, he is faster than me, so he's able to get up a second Quiver Dance. Had I been faster, I think I maybe could have had an opportunity to beat this Volcarona, but after 2 Quiver Dances, it's basically over, because I'm forced to evolve with my Mega Gyarados, which means that he can just kill me with a Bug Buzz. So that's basically going to be the game, because I have nothing to take this on, even with a Scarf Jirachi. If I had played better with my Ditto, I think me playing with my Ditto and me fucking up against that Thunderous were the main things that if I had done better, I definitely could have had an opportunity to win. So some crucial misplays on my part, and of course Kyle played well, so good game Kyle, and yeah, first league match ever, so I can't really be mad that I lost. But yeah, like to support Suicide Gang, etc. See you later.